Hey, Prime members, you can listen to Crime and Sports early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the app today.
In the depths of an Atlanta forest, a clash between activists and authorities ends in tragedy. I'm Matthew Scher, and on my new podcast, We Came to the Forest, we expose the hidden truths behind a shootout that left one activist dead and countless lives forever changed. Binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest ad-free on Wondery Plus.
Welcome back to Crime and Sports.
Yay!
Yay! My name is James Pietragallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I am Jimmie Whisman.
And can't thank you enough for joining us. We're very excited for this week. This is a wild story. Before we get into this story, just want to thank you guys for the new iTunes reviews.
So cool.
And please, to beg the new listeners and old listeners, everybody, please hit up the iTunes reviews.
Yes.
It's so immensely helpful to us. We can't even tell you. It takes 30 seconds. Please, especially once you hear this story today, you'll be like, "Oh my God, that's digging deep." So dig deep, take 30 seconds, please. Give us your 5 stars, following instructions. Whatever references you want, a silver-haired middle-aged white man reference you want to put in there, or whatever. But thank you guys so much.
The latest ones were awesome.
The latest ones were awesome.
So good.
We hope you guys enjoyed Keith Wright last week, because I know for a fact probably nobody ever heard of that guy.
Right.
They had no idea he existed.
That's my favorite part of this, is giving people... I can't say it enough. I can't believe the media doesn't talk about this. But... Enough.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But if they did, we wouldn't be here. So there's that.
That's right.
But these guys that we have covered in the past couple of weeks, the past couple of months, a lot of them, nobody knows who the fuck they are.
They fall through the cracks.
Right.
And these are the stories I love, like we've talked about before. And we're going to get to... We'll get to the Michael Vicks and the Pistorius and the Aaron Hernandez we're Chris Benoit. We'll get to all these. We're going to get to all that. Right. Trust us. There's like a handful of these like heavy hitter, big, everybody on earth, everybody's grandmother knows their name type guys. So we can't just plow them all out in the beginning. We have to kind of spread them out.
And plus, what fun is that?
Years. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Do you want to just know the same story you heard on the news 100 times that you got sick of hearing on CNN, or do you want to hear about something different and interesting? Like today's story, because this is one of those. I didn't even know this was a sport, to be honest with you. And on top of that,
that's what I'm talking about. This is things that nobody knows about. It's not in the public eye, and that's why it makes this story so goddamn great.
And this story was in the public eye, but not so much. This is crazy. This story, because this is another one of those stories where I'm like, this seems pretty straightforward. Gonna, A to B, it's pretty easy here, all right? And then I get into it, I'm like, holy shit, there's tentacles going from Columbia to the White House, man. It's it's insane, this whole entire one. So it's Benjamin Barry Kramer.
Benny Kramer.
Now, we're kind of going to get a 2-for-1 this week also, because there's another guy involved in a good chunk of this who is a race car driver, Indy race car driver named Randy Lanier. So he's kind of going to be about 40% of this. So you guys are getting a 2-for-1 here.
Did we say what Benjamin does?
2 idiots. Not yet. Okay. Ben Kramer is a powerboat racer. Okay. I know you're like, powerboat racing? What the fuck is that? All right. Now, you're going to say that these people, this isn't an athlete, whatever. These guys drive boats. This guy was driving 120 miles an hour on water.
That's a fucking athlete.
That's insanity. Yeah. Think about going 120 miles an hour in a car. Yeah. Most people have never gone 120 miles an hour in a car. Think about going 100 miles an hour in a car. It feels a little squirrely, right? You're like, ooh, this could get hairy. You get a
4-cylinder, it starts to get a bit shaky.
Even if it's a fast car, you're like, okay, and that's like, it's meant to do that. Right. It's balanced out. These guys, these are huge, giant boats that are barely, they're like skipping a stone.
And there's so many variables.
Oh, one little bit of wind and this thing's flipping over 14 times. Everybody's dead.
Any boat drives by and chops up the water.
Dead.
Yeah, it's over.
There are so many times where I'm reading this, where a race he was in, and it's like, 2 people died in this race. And people die constantly in this. This isn't like the NFL where he had some head trauma and then he died 20 years. They fucking die in the middle of it.
There's no safety harnesses in a boat either, because if a boat wrecks,
crazy.
You want to get the fuck out of it.
Well, this
you
is
have
like,
to.
Yeah, even like, boxing, like how many people have died in the ring? Like 4 in the last 50 years. Right. Every year. If you get through a race without somebody's boat exploding, hey, you guys did something today. Everybody pat yourselves on the back. It's a good day.
And hitting the water. So in a car, if you wreck, your car flips over, whatever, you're in a safety harness and you slide to a stop.
Also, there's a roof.
Right.
It's meant
and that's the best case scenario. In a boat, it's
done.
And the cliche answer is you fly out of a boat at 60 miles an hour and you hit the water, it feels like hitting concrete. That's the dumb thing that they say. There's no at 100 miles an hour you fly out of a boat, there's no feeling because you're fucking dead.
Not to mention you can't drown in concrete,
right?
Also, which is another problem with the water, which is an issue. So we're not going to talk that much about power boating, though. We'll talk a little bit about boats because this will come in with another builder and it's a whole thing. But it's mainly crime. This is just a shitload of crime rammed up your asses. It's some white trash.
100 miles an hour.
White trash Florida boys.
Pickle fork boat.
Yeah, white trash Florida boys made good. That's what this is about here.
I like it.
So Ben Kramer, his father is married to Meyer Lansky's niece. So
what?
His father,
the fucking
Jack,
mafia guy?
Yeah. So this guy, it's shade. The father is his first silver-haired middle-aged white man of his life. Like he totally enables him. He's mixed up in his enterprise at one point. It's a mess. So, but the father is good friends with Meyer Lansky. Meyer Lansky, in case you don't know, is the American mafia's like accountant godfather, we'll call him.
Right.
He was as big as Lucky Luciano or any of these guys as in starting up the American crime syndicate, the whole mafia thing. So he's born in 1955. I could not find an exact date of birth. I saw 3 different ones, and I said I'm just going to say 1955. I know he's born in 55, but the date shifts for some reason.
That's how questionable his family is, that they don't even tell when their kid is born.
Yeah, it's really who knows? They might have been on the run or something on the lam. Said he was born here, but that was to throw off the feds.
Right.
I have no fucking idea.
To make him think he was in a state at that particular time or some shit.
Yeah, he grows up in Hollywood, Florida. Right. So I mean, that's white trash haven. That's the taint of white trash done right there. So I mean, he sells weed from an early age too.
Of course,
there's gonna be a lot of weed selling in this episode, and he sells weed from an early age. He's first busted at 17 selling weed. So he's good. He's right.
Yeah,
he's a protege. He's a protege. He's a prodigy.
Prodigy, right?
He's a prodigy. This guy.
He's a protege of his father too.
Of his father, because his father, like I said, joins into this now. To meet up with this in the middle, this is by age 17, so we're talking by like 1972, he's busted, okay? Now...
In the 70s, everybody had weed, so I'm sure they were a little lenient on him.
The 70s, too, there were some harsh drug laws, but the harsher ones came in the 80s with the whole war on drugs.
Right, the DARE campaign.
The Ronald Reagan bullshit.
Thanks, Nancy.
Yeah, so let's introduce one of our other players here. Yeah. There's a few main players. These are the 2 that are connected here. We have Ben Kramer, who we just introduced, the powerboat racer, and we have a guy named Randy Lanier, who I'm going to call Bob Lanier at some point, who is a Hall of Fame basketball player. And I'm going to fuck this up at some point, because I've never heard the name Randy Lanier, but I know Bob Lanier. So Randy Lanier is an IndyCar driver, and a successful one, actually, as was Ben Kramer is... As we'll see later on, super successful in his business. Just for clarity
of anybody that doesn't follow racing, IndyCar drivers are open wheel, and NASCAR are the actual bodies on. It looks like a real car, kinda.
IndyCar is like what you see more. Actually, the cars look like
a lot of Italians
in Europe going when they do like the street courses and shit like that. But we also send them around in circles, just like we do the other ones. He didn't start out that way. Anyway, he's born September 27, 1954. He's from Lynchburg, Virginia, home of Jack Daniels, I think, right?
Yep.
So he's from Lynchburg, Virginia, moves down to Florida as a kid. Yeah. This is in the late 60s. He's a year older than Ben Kramer, so they're the same thing. Gets into the weed culture away.
They got white trash and the same age in common.
Absolutely.
They're going to be boys.
And it's the same type of thing. Weed gets real into the weed at 14, the whole South Florida kind of weed thing.
Yeah.
He starts working construction sites when he's young, And basically, he said he had a ponytail, so everyone would ask him if he knew where to get weed. So he never...
That's these stereotypes
Yes.
have been going on for years and years and years.
He never set out to sell weed. Literally, he said so many people would ask me on the construction site, because they were like a lot of square guys, but they were like, hey, this fucking kid knows where to get weed. He's got a long hair
This
on.
idiot doesn't get a haircut. He has weed.
So they basically would ask him, so he just went, I guess I'll just start making money off it. Fuck it. They're asking me anyway.
I want a new car.
I can just say yes instead of no, and then he'll hand me money, and it's the same transaction. So fuck it. I guess I'll just do that, you know?
That's a logical thing to do.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't see how somebody doesn't do that.
It's insane. So
If enough people ask you
Yeah.
for anything,
You're like,
just
maybe
gonna
I
be
should start
like, how
making
do
that."
I get that? Because all these people, there's a fucking demand.
If people started stopping me on the street randomly and just saying, do you have cupcakes to sell me? And it happened often,
Yeah.
I'd probably go, I should probably just start carrying around some cupcakes with me just in case. You know what I
and
mean?
then get a boyfriend and all that
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. And some cats, and it'll be wonderful. So Lanier goes to Miramar High School in Hollywood, Florida. He gets caught with an ounce of weed in school in the 70s there.
a lot of dope,
Which
man.
is back then, too, like in school, whatever. So he
4 quarters is a lot of weed.
Yeah, and
that's not personal
and
use.
he was a junior, and he just went, you know what? I'll just drop out. They're going to suspend me for a long time anyway. So he just drops out, gets his GED.
Yeah.
Fine.
He's selling nickel bags to kids at school.
Yes. Now, here's when now both of these guys, Kramer and Lanier, they start smuggling drugs separately and then intersect at a point down the
They're
road.
like, you're my age, you're white trash,
Yeah.
you do drugs?
You do drugs?
You sell weed?
You know, I have
Me
boats.
too.
You have weed. This is tremendous. Let's do this.
This is a match made in hell.
So Lanier, 1973, he's about 20 years old. He buys a 27-foot boat.
It's a good size.
Okay, it's
That's
a good sized boat. It's a pleasure cruiser. And for him and his friends to hang out on. It costs him $18,000 that he bought with weed money.
Yeah.
So I mean,
He's doing
it's
all
paying
right.
off. He's 20. He's like, hey, construction site weed dealers.
$18,000 boat at 20 years old.
$18,000 in 1973.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
a $40,000 boat
fucking-
now.
Yeah, you could buy a shitty house for $18,000 now. You know, I mean, you could buy a tricked out Cadillac for $18,000
Yeah.
back then, like a really nice one.
Badass car.
Yeah. So this is. Jesus Christ. He starts smuggling drugs with the boat, right? And he would bring in about 700 pounds at a time.
From where?
From the Bahamas he would go
Okay.
to. He gets the boat. He had a friend of his said, it was about 6 months later. He asked him if he was interested in going to the Bahamas.
Fuck yeah, I am on a
And
27-foot, $18,000 boat.
He
Let's
said,
go.
would you put some grass on your boat when we're down there, is the word he used. Would you put some grass on there?
So 70s.
And he said, this is Lanier's quote, you know what, too? I'm gonna do in their own words for Lanier also. Because he's fucking fun.
Yeah.
He says some fun shit, and Ben Kramer's not so much of a talker.
I like it.
He does a lot of action, as we'll see later, but he's not as much of a talker here. This is in their own words for Randy Lanier on this after he got the boat. Quote, about 6 months later, a buddy asked me if I was interested in going to the Bahamas and putting some grass on my boat. Seemed like an adventure, so I did it. This guy just with the wind.
Yeah.
Just
Sounds fun. Let's do
Sounds
it.
fun, sure. What?
He didn't ask you to go camping,
You guys
bro.
looking for weed? I guess I'll start selling weed. Like he's with the wind, this guy. He's just in the wind.
I've never been camping before. I'm going to go do that. That's a completely different adventure.
Totally different.
Would you like to go do fucking, I don't know anything. Let's go rock climbing. That's an adventure. What you're doing, sir, is fucking trafficking. That's
You're
not an
trafficking. And
adventure.
He's like, hey, he's a kid. He's like, fuck it. I guess everybody was doing it too back then. That's the thing. In
Really?
South Florida in the 70s, because this was before the 80s when everything really tightened up federally.
Right.
This was just that you just came in. I mean, people were doing this. Has anybody's ever seen the documentary Cocaine Cowboys, which I'm sure a lot of you have because it's such a popular one. This is that time. These guys actually, later on, we'll get into somebody who sold them boats, the Cocaine Cowboy drug smugglers. I mean, this is what we're talking about. So everybody was doing it. It was wide open. I mean, they all say, this quote after quote of people saying South Florida was just wide open back then. Just do whatever you want, hang out. Sounds like a fucking good time, honestly, if you're an enterprising young man.
Thanks to them, too, we got an episode out of it. So I'm good.
And
I'm happy with it.
This is great. This could be 3 episodes, honestly. This fucking one's crazy. So Lanier marries his high school sweetheart at this point, starts a legit business, renting out jet skis. Okay, so that's his thing there.
Yep.
But he's smuggling on the side, obviously. And it's so funny because he has all this smuggling money, and he tells everybody that, jet ski rental business is killing it. I mean, We are crushing the jet ski rental market right
Just
now.
a legitimate business to wash
so
all his
funny.
weed money through. But he's legit killing it with that shit?
Well, he's just it's a jet ski
it's
business.
it's
He's
a
doing
disaster.
fine,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's not. He's not. Later on, he's funding a race team with
Unbelievable.
and going,
With his
my
jet
jet
ski money."
ski shop is doing really well. Literally, because that's all he could say. It's
That's
fucking
hilarious.
nuts. He goes to a Miami car show in 1979 and gets into the car thing.
Mm-hmm.
Buys a piece of shit Porsche, an old Porsche that's like all kind of tied together.
Yeah.
Fixes it up, starts racing it.
Wow.
Basically, racing it, gets it. So he races in a 24-hour race at one point after he had done this. So one of the drivers was sick. He ends up on the Ferrari team racing a 24-hour race for the
Holy
Ferrari.
shit.
And then Ferrari ends up breaking down on him. He doesn't finish the race. That's not his fault, but he's hooked on car shit from
So he
then
loads
on.
it with grass and puts it on a tow truck.
And just
sends it back
drives.
home. Yeah.
So now he's into the racing now, though. That's racing and smuggling is what
Okay.
he's all about.
And that's Lanier.
Yeah, this is Lanier. He keeps smuggling while he's trying to break into racing, right? He's smuggling more and more and more. He works. It's funny because all the guys he works with smuggling are race guys, mechanics,
That's so crazy.
boat people from the power boat circuit.
Yeah.
So it's these guys all kind of know each other, and they're all into weed. So
Yeah.
it's just they're all mixed in together. All
NASCAR
tentacled.
started because of bootlegging.
Moonshining.
Right.
Yeah.
They would be racing their cars, running from police and going to the Mason-Dixon line, all that shit. So that makes sense that people that are racers and gearheads and motorheads and they just like to be
And
fucked
why else
up.
would you want a fast boat unless
Right.
you needed to outrun somebody with drugs in your
Exactly.
boat? That's the thing,
Yeah.
too. Because powerboat racing, and we'll get into the guy a little later on who started powerboat racing, who was the first guy to really do it and set all the records for speed and build the boats that got faster and faster. He didn't do it till the early 60s, which is when drug importation became a real big deal. So it's like before that, they had no need for fast. They were like, yeah, fuck fast boats.
Why
just
go
sail.
fast? Right.
Yeah, I got a car that's fast. It's
Right.
fine. I don't need that.
Now you know why people build fast shit.
Yeah, so now we're back to Ben Kramer here.
Mm-hmm.
He's smuggling. We're in the mid-70s with him. Now we're 1977. Ben Kramer, he's been smuggling this whole time. He gets convicted of marijuana smuggling in 1977. He gets sent to prison.
Uh-huh.
He is in prison for 3 years. So, yeah, he gets a good sentence. Pretty stiff,
pretty-
actually.
yeah.
Comes out in 1980. Good thing about this for him, he comes out with just a ton of Colombian drug connections now. Because he just did 3
From all
years
the dudes in there.
in a South Florida jail, which guess who's in South Florida jails?
Bunch
Drug
of Cubans,
dealers.
Haitians, and dudes that are bringing shit in on boats.
Dudes who know where to get
Yeah.
fucking weed and score shit, basically. So these two guys in 1982, their paths cross professionally
Yeah.
now. They hook up in 82.
All right.
Ben Kramer, Randy Lanier. By the way, I got to give you this quote of Ben Kramer because there's not a lot of quotes of Ben Kramer,
Yeah.
but this one sums up how crazy these racing lunatics were with the boats. Okay, in their own words, this is about racing a boat racing at night.
Yeah.
Which seems fucking insane. I'm going to drive 90 miles an hour in the dark.
On shit I can't see.
Shit I can't see.
No.
Who knows what's
There's
there?
no headlights on a
Flying.
boat.
No. So in their own words, here we go. Quote, there's tremendous mental pressure. It's like driving down the turnpike at night and putting adhesive tape over your car's windshield. You could hardly see anything.
Yeah,
Imagine that.
that's awesome.
So that's why these guys are smugglers. I mean, we're talking about nerves of steel.
Yeah.
They don't
go.
get panicked that
No.
the Coast Guard might be on them.
Right.
They're like, fuck it, we'll go faster. Like, they're just not.
That's so wild.
So yeah, they're Frankie the
Frankie
Crime and
girl.
Sports
Yeah.
dog is barking. So in April of 1982, they make their first run in their partnership here. They bring in 15,000 pounds on their first shipment.
On their first
This is their smallest shipment.
15,000
pounds.
of weed.
Yes, that's a lot. That's a shitload.
How did that boat not sink?
Well, it's funny how they start getting it in. It's genius the way that these guys are really
They really
smart.
think it out,
They're-
yeah.
The smuggling back then was really
They
sophisticated.
have
I mean,
engineers like figuring shit out.
It's crazy. It's so smart. And they do this. They bring it from Colombia to Melbourne Beach, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And they use one of Kramer's boats, because
Mm-hmm.
that's why he's involved in this. One of Kramer's boats, it's called the Ursa Major.
Okay.
Keep that in mind, because I'll bring that up later. There's a funny little story about that boat that comes back about 20 years later. It's pretty fucking funny. So anyway, they're smuggling. It grows bigger and bigger with Kramer on board, because now they have better boat equipment.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Another dude with
nautically.
money.
Another dude with money too. He's got skin in the game too. Start using faster, bigger boats. They got a 65-foot wooden trawler thing.
Wow.
They got a fleet of tugboats.
A 65-foot boat.
Yeah, that's
like a fishing boat that is. That's insane to me.
it's a wooden thing, and then they got a fleet of tugboats, and then they got a bunch of barges that they'd have the tugboats pull the barges.
Oh my God!
So
they aren't playing.
This isn't like some guy with the lights off on a speedboat bringing in 10 pounds in the fucking underneath compartment.
Right.
They have a ship with a tugboat with a barge.
They're
for
pirates that are bringing in weed.
Barge.
Yeah.
And they stop at customs and they get through the shit. This isn't like they're not dumping shit in the Everglades in a swamp and having somebody pick it up later. They're doing this like
they've got like the Alabama Maersk, and they're out there loading that thing with weed.
This is wild. Okay, so Kramer's the ringleader, and he organizes everything in this operation. He would set up the purchases in Colombia. He'd bring in other parties. He'd have other people bring it in on these barges, and Lanier would sell it to distributors. Lanier had the on the ground contacts.
Yeah,
he'd sell it to distributors all around the country. This wasn't a Florida thing. They had trucks
everywhere.
They had warehouses. They went to different ports. They didn't just go to Florida. They didn't just go to Florida. No, this is the hiding it is the genius part. Okay, here's what they do. They hide it in the ballasts. Okay, the ballasts are hard to explain, but it's the way they keep the boat
from going up and down.
Yeah, you can they run water in these ballasts, and they're like kind of like a big pillow would be a good way to describe it, type of thing. And you can inflate it and deflate it basically depending on your weight,
on the swell of the boat.
Exactly. So they hid it in that. They made a system so the agents couldn't find it. And Lanier explains it the best here. I'll do it in their own words with Randy Lanier explaining it because you can't explain it any better than this. Okay. In their own words, quote, "The ballast normally had salt water pumped in or out of it to make the barge ride high or low depending on the cargo on board. We welded compartments into the ballast so the weed was underneath the salt water. By then there was a whole lot of people smuggling grass in Florida. It felt like winning."
I would say so. That is the Indy 500.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
First of all, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
To think of that is brilliant. And then I just love their attitude.
It felt like winning. Too. You absolutely won.
Felt like winning.
You made guys that their job is to find weed.
Yeah.
And you hid it from them, and they did not find the weed.
They couldn't find
You won.
You won. And they're getting in tons of weed. I don't even say pounds. Tons.
Tons, yeah. 15,000 in their first one. When you've got barges, it's way more than that.
Next shipment was 25. Next it was. I mean, it went up. The first one, 15, was just to test out the system.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it for less than 15. That's not worth it. What are we, fucking Cracker Jack over here?
Right.
No. What are we, Jack Rowland Murphy going in for a couple of jewels? No, this is no bullshit.
They're on the Ursa May. Is that what it was? Ursa Major? Was that it?
Ursa Major.
Yeah.
Ursa Major. So,
Ursa Major's a giant fucking boat, and they're loading it with weed.
How
does that not smell? That's amazing to me. Go on.
It's buried in the salt water and the ballast, and plus, I think the weed was shitty back then too.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was shitty. It didn't smell very good.
Right.
Like now, if you had 100,000 pounds of weed, you could smell it from Alaska. If you were in Florida, because weed is so good now.
100,000 pounds of weed under that. Putting it under that salt water is probably good for it too, because it probably made it a little moister.
Because it keeps the moisture, just in case.
It's probably quite fucking dry.
So they have boats going to ports in New York, San Francisco, New Orleans. I mean, they're going. That's the whole country.
The big ones,
South, the east, the west.
Yeah.
They are infiltrating it from every direction. The weed would be transferred from the boats in giant bales onto big trucks, and then they would dispatch these trucks full of weed to warehouses throughout the country. That's how they did this. So, I mean, this is that's how you would import any product that you would import.
A fucking lamp.
Yeah, if you were importing lamps or rice makers or,
anything.
This is what you would do. You would import it and you'd bring it on a truck and you put it to your warehouse and then distribute it to your
He's got a legit
location.
business.
It's a legit business.
Of illegal shit.
It's just weed. Yeah, if they would have switched this over to fortune cookies, it's fine.
Right.
Nobody has a problem with this. So,
or bales of actual hay, whatever.
I salute them for doing this because they kept a lot of people having some bud.
They
brought the price down.
They created jobs.
Yeah, and they bringing that much in, they brought the price down. That's what that did.
Really?
That floods the market, brings the price down.
They
Good
actually,
for you guys. Thank you guys.
They actually attributed to the price of weed in America because of how much they were doing.
They were doing that.
It's incredible.
Much. Yeah. They sold everywhere from California to Kentucky to West Virginia to Illinois to you name the state. everywhere. It's wild.
The countrywide.
Now, they're picture this. This is early 80s Miami. So if you've seen Cocaine Cowboys, that sort of thing, anything on Scarface, this is Scarface. This is that time, gaudy, early 80s Miami, cocaine money, people building sick mansions.
Yeah.
These guys are right in the middle of this shit.
Unbelievable.
Right in the middle. They're making millions. Millions. I mean, they're as rich as any of these kingpins out there.
And that's shocking to me that you're running race boats at first, looking for a nest egg to create, and the other guy's racing Indy cars, looking for a nest egg to create.
Yeah.
1 year, quit.
That's the
millions?
thing.
Why are you so goddamn greedy?
That's the thing, and you'll see this is great. One of their corporations. Wait till you hear the name of it. That'll give you a hint. It's just they cannot stop these fucking people, and they don't quit either. They keep racing. They're like riding on the edge. They have to be on the edge.
It's an
They have to
adrenaline
be.
thing.
Oh, it is. These guys are obviously the guy that drives 200 miles an hour,
Right.
and another guy who races boats that could be dead in an instant too. It's they're
They're adrenaline junkies, and smuggling weed is no different.
They like to do things that can immediately kill them
Right.
at any time.
Or ruin
That's what they like.
ruin
Or
everything
you
forever.
break their neck
Yeah.
in 2 seconds. It's their whole lives they keep this up to. So their business is so successful. Lanier starts a race team, his own race team. He starts
Sponsored by
with
weed.
this money, and that's the thing. He sponsors it. Right? They're like, "Where do you get all this money?" And he's like, "Jet ski rentals killing it. Those fucking tourists, they come down." And they just want to get in the water on a jet ski.
Everybody wants a 3-seater.
I can't keep enough in stock. This Sea-Doo is, I buy stock in it because they're the most successful company ever. Can't keep a jet ski in the building. So he's this. I mean, that's how successful he is. This is like, it takes millions.
Yeah.
This isn't like 10 grand or
Yeah.
something to throw at it. These cars you have to fix them every race. They're broken. You have to hire all these fucking people.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars a month
It's insane. So
is overhead.
he buys 2 race cars, which is expensive.
Yeah.
Hires a crew chief and instructed the crew chief to hire the best mechanics, crew, everything, no matter what the cost. Money is no object, he told them.
Wow. We're going to win.
Outbid who you want, have to outbid, get me the best.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so, we need to be the best at everything. We're going to smuggle more. We're going to race harder.
Everything wants to feel like winning.
So Randy Lanier brings in a driver to help him drive. This is another IndyCar driver named Bill Whittington, and he was actually very successful throughout the 70s. Him and his brother, the Whittingtons.
Bill what? Whittington? Okay.
Brings him in to help him drive, is to be one of the drivers, because Lanier's a driver and needs another driver, because they run they're doing 24-hour races.
Yeah.
They're doing these crazy
endurance races.
Yeah. So Bill won the Le Mans 1979 with his brother Don.
That's impressive.
So he's, whatever. But Bill also a fucking weed smuggler. And cocaine too, I think. But not with Lanier.
Yeah, just on his own.
They're in business together racing, but smuggling up separately. Separately smuggling. It's a very, it's a healthy relationship. It's like a couple. They live together, but they shouldn't work together. Right. You know what I mean? That can get contemptuous. So instead, we're going to smuggle separately, do our own smuggling things. No worries.
One business at a time.
One business at a time, but together we race, okay? Lanier was spending as much as the Porsche and Jaguar teams were. That's
on just one race team.
But as much as each of those teams were. Like as much as Porsche put into their team, he put into his team.
Wow.
As much as Jaguar put into his team. So that's the kind of
Those
dough.
are obviously the biggest car companies, right?
And he's competing dollar for dollar with these
against
people.
them
With weed money.
with.
End quote. That's it. I was smuggling, so I just spent as much as I had to.
I got to unload this money also.
They had as much money as they wanted to.
That's unbelievable.
84, their team does well. Lanier's...
Real quick, doesn't that let you know how much weed America smokes?
They're smoking a lot of fucking weed.
That's how much weed. You can finance race teams that cost millions of dollars and finance it very easily. Because money is no goddamn object when America smokes as much weed as they smoke. And this is from the 70s. There are much more people smoking now.
And the fucked up part is this is weed. The coke the coke smugglers were making 10 times as much. 10 times
Yeah.
as much. They're laughing at these guys. The coke guys were like, yeah, that's funny.
Right.
That's hilarious, guys.
You need a little race team.
Yeah. You bring in 15,000 pounds of weed, it's worth whatever. You bring in 15,000 pounds of coke.
Insanity.
Raw
Yeah.
from down there is worth
Insanity
100 times,
Right.
200 times what you paid for it.
You can
Whereas
buy the
weed,
country.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, their team does very well. Lanier's race team. There's an article in 1984 in the Hartford Courant. Yes, I was looking at 1984 articles from Hartford. Jesus Christ, that says, quote, "Little-known Randy Lanier shocked the sports car racing world by winning the Camel GT Championship in 1984." So I mean, he comes out of nowhere.
Little known, too.
Little known. Yeah, he was a nobody, this guy.
Nobody.
He's a nobody. He's not even like a professional racer.
We don't even know what he does.
Nope.
Little known jet ski shop owner.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And at the same time, we have Ben Kramer, who's winning every championship you can win on powerboat racing. He's winning this title, that race, this title. He's a badass power.
Yeah.
So, I mean, both of these guys are smuggling together. They're crushing their sports.
Yeah.
They're starting out businesses, too. They're starting out race teams. They're entrepreneurs. This is Puff Daddy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is like they're
That's exactly what it is.
They're starting their own label here.
That's such balls, too, though, to, like, invade some sort. That's like that's the equivalent of somebody being some sort of a drug runner and then buying an NBA team and then people just being like, oh, I guess this guy's successful too.
It's like what they used to do with Prohibition.
How did you buy an nobody questions this at all?
No, it's like Prohibition.
There'd be a shitload of questions if they bought an NBA team.
There would be a little bit of questions. There's also questions if you buy a boat company that does hardcore government DEA contracts, as we'll get into later on.
See, that's what I mean.
This gets deep.
The greed is insane.
Yeah, and this gets way, way, way heavier than just weed smuggling here, guys. This is like insane. And now let's introduce our third character of this whole thing here. There's a lot more characters, but there's three major ones. Okay. This is the most unfortunate of all of them. Only at the end, because in the beginning, this guy is a pimp.
All right.
This is like, I can't even describe. He's the coolest motherfucker you could ever want to be. Okay, this guy, Don Aronow is his name.
It's a good name.
Don Aronow.
Yeah.
Now, he is a race boat mogul, this guy. He comes up, give him the stats here. He's born on March 3rd, 1927. So he's an older chap than these guys. He is Ben Kramer's he's Ben Kramer's idol.
All right.
Ben Kramer looks at this guy and he's everything he wants to be.
Yeah.
I mean,
30 years older.
Yeah, and he's rich. He makes millions in the construction industry in New Jersey in the 50s. And exactly. And there's all these articles going, it's so funny because he's dead, people are trying to say like, well, he knew these guys, but that doesn't mean he was hooked up with them. And it's like, no. If you get rich doing like contracting in New Jersey in the 50s, if you get rich doing it in the 80s, never mind in the fucking 50s, you're mobbed up, or at least you're paying guys off and you're not blowing the whistle on anybody.
You know the truth about Jimmy Hoffa.
You're going with the flow at that point, and you're doing favors, you're doing what you can do.
Yeah.
So he makes all this money, enough to have like $3-4 million saved up, which in the 50s is a lot.
Very well rocked up. He
Absolutely.
knows what he's doing.
Good friends with Meyer Lansky.
Of course he is.
Another Meyer Lansky connection here. 1961, hastily out of nowhere, just shuts his business down, moves to Florida.
I feel like there's an investigation.
I feel like somebody said, it's about enough of you.
Yeah.
Why don't you take your shit? You have two choices. You can take everything you've built and get the fuck out of here, or we can find you floating somewhere.
Right.
You're a nice guy. You've done a lot of work for us, so I'm going to give you a chance.
We really like that building you put up in the garment district.
It seems like that was the thing. Like, we want whatever you have, that little business you have. We're going to take that over, so you can get the fuck out of here, or float. Basically.
Or don't get out of here.
Or don't get out of here.
And you'll always be here.
Take your pick. Either one. There's always a fresh hole.
Right.
So this guy gets down to Florida. He starts racing these boats for fun. This guy, Don Aronow. Now, he's racing. He sets speed records.
Yeah.
Because he's building faster boats every time. Because he wants to go faster and faster. Yeah. The first world record he set was like 56 miles an hour.
Wow.
So that's how long ago this was in the 60s. The very primitive.
He's clearly got something to run from.
Yeah. Well, at first, this was just rich guys that went out and dicked off.
Sounds like it's him going, I got to get something really fast in case these guys decide to come back down here.
Yeah.
And I got to get to Cuba in a second.
He's just hanging out. No, this is rich. This is the culture down there at the time. There was a few of these rich guys who would buy crazy expensive boats, and this was their way of having. This was like
I don't believe it for a second.
This was their dick pissing contest.
I'm staying with he's scared.
He's scared too, I'm sure. But I mean, he gets down. He's high profile too. It's not like he's hiding out there. He's doing all this shit. He starts a boat company in 1960. A bunch of these companies that are around still.
Really?
Like, it's so funny. Yeah. Starts another one in 64. Ends up finding Magnum Marine in 66, which was around for a long time. Now, 1970, he introduces the cigarette.
The cigarette boat.
The cigarette boat. Now, it's a take on the old-timey cigarette boats, the whatever, but it's the most sought-after speedboat there is, okay? All the rich people
Deep
buy
V-holes
this.
with dual V8 motors in them. They're fast fucking boats.
They're fast. First of all, he sells boats to George H.W. Bush.
Oh, God.
The first Bush for any outside of America people, not the last one. This one, the first one, 1988 to 1992, George Bush.
The one-term Bush.
Lyndon Johnson, another former president. King Hussein of Jordan, the Shah of Iran.
Wow.
Movie stars, rock stars, you name it.
He's building incredible boats for
He's
incredible
building
people.
rich people, rich, crazy, sick fucking boats.
Yeah.
Also, it is the top choice of all the drug smugglers.
Absolutely.
So every one of these, half of these boats that go out, all the articles, it basically says half of these boats that are going out are coming back full of cocaine.
Yeah.
There's
it's
half
the
of them
Don
going,
Johnson Miami Vice with the rolled up
This is
sleeves.
it,
It's those boats.
This is it. This is the whole thing. Don Johnson's chasing after him in a linen jacket, fuchsia goddamn t-shirt with no socks on, and he's on the fucking hunt for these guys.
With no socks.
No socks to be seen, baby. Loafers and linen pants.
I love it.
Fucking A. So everybody thought Aronow was involved in drug running too because he's a fast boat. Like you were like, I'm not buying that shit for a second. He's got things to do.
Yeah.
So did everybody else. No one else bought that shit either. Now, Jack Kramer, who was Ben Kramer's father, who Meyer Lansky buddy, said that Ben Kramer idolized Don Aronow, and his quote was, Aronow was a man's man, and Ben wanted to emulate him completely.
Yeah.
He wanted to be the pimp. Because
I want to be him too.
Oh, we all do. He's rich.
Yeah.
He's powerful. He knows heads of state, heads of movie studios, heads of everything.
Yeah.
He's mingling
And
with
he's
all
making
these people,
money off them.
making bank.
Yeah.
He is a playboy too. He is
There's a difference
banging
between,
everything
like-
in sight.
Oh, I'm sure. There's a difference between
Divorces
like
his old wife, marries a showgirl, the whole deal. I'm serious. He does the whole
That's awesome.
stereotype.
There's a difference between having Brad Pitt's phone number and then Brad Pitt having your number to buy shit from you. You know what I mean? There's an enormous difference from that.
Yeah.
You are a notch above Brad Pitt at that moment.
Well, socially too, he was hanging out with him and George Bush were buddies.
Really?
They weren't like just you bought a boat for me one
Yeah.
time. They were like social friends.
Yeah.
And later on, he uses that connection to sell boats to the government.
That's awesome.
Through a task force that George Bush had set up as vice president.
Hilarious.
So it's pretty interesting. He starts selling. Don Aronow's famous for selling the Blue Thunder boats to the federal government.
All right.
These were boats that were supposed to be faster than the smuggler boats to catch them because there was pressure on him to do this, and they were shit. And they were
hilarious.
They were slow. They were hunks of shit. The smugglers would keep going. Well, and everybody said it didn't matter anyway because the agents didn't know how to fucking drive these boats 90 miles. That's not in your normal federal agent training.
No.
You don't go out on the shooting range, work on paperwork, and then go fucking bounce a boat 100 miles an hour off of the top of waves. That's not part of it.
You wanna go to lunch today? I
Defensive
can't.
driving.
I
I got powerboat training. I can't do it. So.
I got to go learn how to operate Blue Thunder.
It's going to be rough. So he's selling these boats for $150K too, $150,000 a pop to the government for these boats. So I mean,
he's killing it.
He is putting it right in the old tuchus of the government at this point. He's right in the ass. In '84, Ben Kramer buys Aronow's racing team.
All right.
His boat racing team.
Yeah.
It's a company that makes boats and they do racing. It's the USA Racing Team.
Okay.
This is going to be a point of contention later and the alleged motive for a future crime that's going to come up, okay? On the books, Kramer buys this racing team for $600,000.
Okay.
Every single account of anybody who knows any of these people said the deal was for $2.6 million, $600,000 check, $2 million under the table in cash.
Awesome.
Because Ben Kramer said he can't show that kind of that he has $2.5 million in the bank, and on top of that, it's just better to do it in cash. Why involve taxes, guys? What are we doing here?
Let's skip all that shit.
We're smugglers here. What are we doing? Come on.
And I don't want to value this company too high and have to pay taxes on the shit.
That's the thing.
And I don't want to value it too high to where it's going to fuck something up that I finance later. I don't want to finance anything. I don't want anybody knowing that I can finance.
That's he does. You want to lay low if you're smuggling fucking tons of weed into the country on a daily basis. So the government at this point says, no. He's a convicted drug smuggler. We're not buying boats from him. That's kind of a mixed message to send. We're going to buy boats. These are the boats you smuggled your drugs in? Great, let's buy it. So he's not upstanding enough, and the government threatens that they're going to yank the contract and basically make that company worthless if this sale doesn't get nixed.
Right.
So at that point, Aronow takes the company back and is said to have given him everything on the table, the $600,000, the equipment, all that, but stiffed him on the $2 million under the table.
Oh, shit.
So now there's a disputed facts of how people are disputed opinions of how pissed off Kramer was about this. Because on one hand, he's pissed off because he's a hothead, and Kramer's accused of multiple homicides. The way he does business, he's a psychopath.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks so. He's crazy as he is on the water everywhere. So
awesome.
He's a crazy person, but everyone's going, Bob Aronow is a high-profile guy, his idol, all this shit. $2 million meant shit to Kramer.
Right.
Like when they bust him, they find $20 million in cash.
Wow.
In cash.
Just sitting
and
there.
he had been laundering, too. So that was just what he had in his fucking, pocket change.
Yeah.
$2 million's dick to this guy. He's going to buy his company and be on par with him, and they're going to be like, peers, and then he fucks him and takes his money. So
keeps his $2 million.
Keeps his $2 million. That's the rumor. That's what everybody said. So Kramer's obviously took a little bit of a loss.
He's already
there.
angry now.
Now, a quote from a disgraced attorney. This is a quote attributed to Ben Kramer.
I already hate this attorney.
By a disgraced attorney who was a drug lawyer who then obviously was laundering money for everybody. I think his name was Marvin Kessler.
He's a piece of shit.
He's a total piece of shit. He says that Kramer said about Aronow, quote, in their own words, quote, "That cocksucker stole my money and made me look like an ass. I'll kill that son of a bitch. I'm not fucking afraid of him." So that's
and a
his quote.
disgraced lawyer relays that to us.
That
I love
later
it.
does not get admitted into court.
I can imagine.
Based on lawyer-client privilege from this disgraced fucker, because he wasn't disgraced yet. It's crazy. So we get into Kramer's racing here. He's killing it racing, Ben Kramer. May of 1985, he wins a Miami to New York race with a $500,000 top prize.
Wow.
Which is nothing to him.
Nothing, no.
They spent $300,000 getting ready for the race.
He just wants the W.
He just wants the W. That's all it is. And it's so funny. Like I said, the quotes for Kramer, the only quotes you can ever find are on boat shit. Wow. Where he's like, hey, we had the throttle pinned to the metal and we're just, hoping that the brake didn't come before the fucking thing and we wouldn't break apart and we came in ahead of the swell. And you're like, what the fuck does that mean? I don't even know what that means. It was just
Tell us about weed, Kramer.
None of that. Just all like, we did lucky today out there. Yeah. It's really weird.
We had glass, no chop, and we came in first. What the fuck?
He's a drug dealer who had really smart lawyers who told him, hey, don't talk to the fucking press, you asshole, about anything other than boat racing. Yeah. Tell them you like boat racing and you drive fast. Otherwise, shut the fuck up,
Stick to talking about fiberglass.
No shit. So all these top teams are trying to win, and for a long time there, they're putting together... This is like a big deal. This is the race of the year.
Yeah.
For a while, the rumor was that the fifth member of Kramer's boat team was going to be James Caan.
Unbelievable.
The actor, Sonny Corleone himself. Yeah. And I don't think Caan ended up being in it, but Caan and him were buddies. And they were like, they'd hang out and all that. And that was the big rumor in the paper and everything they were printing that, hey, James Caan might be in this fucking race. Which
fucking
is funny
Jimmie
as shit.
Caan. That guy's awesome.
Kramer on the water is just amazing. He wins all these races. A fellow racer of his, Bob Kaiser, said that he was, quote, a very, very aggressive, very competitive guy. He's balls out all the time.
I just want to win.
Smuggling, racing, everything. Now, Bob Lanier I told you to fucking call him Bob Lanier
Bill,
at some point.
Isn't that Bill?
Randy Lanier.
Jesus.
Randy Lanier in 1985 at this point. He is trying to break into the big time in his sport in racing. He's trying to qualify for the Indy 500 in '85.
Okay.
But they deem him as not enough experience in open-wheeled racing at the time. He was racing the foreign sport class, which was a different deal. and they basically told him, season up a little more.
This one's
kid.
a bit too fast for you, youngster.
Exactly. So, November 11th, 1985, this is crazy. Kramer and George Morales on a boat race. Morales is a renowned smuggler.
Okay.
He gets busted all the time. He's known as the biggest smuggler in South Florida as he's winning race after race
doesn't
after
give a
race.
shit.
He's like, yeah, this is why I smuggle so well. I can drive faster than these cocksuckers. So you can't beat a guy who's used to just running from the law.
Right.
He knows how to get away.
Reckless abandon.
They win this race. It's a Sam Griffith Memorial Trophy. It's a World Offshore Powerboat Championship. Whatever the fuck that
I love
is.
how you squint and make a grimace as you read that horse shit.
I don't know what that is.
I don't either.
Who knows what kind of weird, loosely tied together organizations govern this sort of shit? There wasn't a board or anything.
No.
This wasn't legit.
No.
There wasn't a commissioner's office.
Let me inspect your vessel, sir.
It wasn't a commissioner's office. This was a bunch of coked up lunatics going like, how much weed did you smuggle in last night? 20,000.
How fast you go?
I got 50.
Yeah.
They're just nuts. This is in Key West. They win this. Kramer and Morales win it for the second year in a row, so Kramer's a beast. In this race, and this is completely common, this is not abnormal, they don't even make such a big deal out of it, like, oh my God, our sport. They're just like, that's a shame. Hopefully, it won't happen next time. Two racers, Dick Fulham and Mike Papa, die in the race when their boat explodes and disintegrates.
Oh my God.
It just bursts. It's driving fast. He's going 90 miles an hour, bouncing off the waves, going balls out, and then it just bursts into flames and looks like it explodes into confetti. That's what it looks like. It's like poof, and it's gone.
And everybody's like, oh, that's sad.
And they're just like, and in the thing that they're talking about, they're like, this happens sometimes with boats. Literally, they're saying happens from too much fatigue on boats over time at high speeds, and it'll just explode and disintegrate.
He just said the boat was tired.
That's what they said.
What are you talking about?
And everybody was okay with this.
It was just tired. It was its time.
Their interview people are just like, a tired boat. I mean, that's, sometimes the boat's tired.
It's called fatigue.
It explodes. Every time you go out there, you could burst into flames. You never know. Who knows? Maybe I'll drown. Maybe I'll burst into flames. Who the fuck knows? But, hey,
hopefully I'll disintegrate.
Hopefully I'll disintegrate.
I don't know why I keep doing it with a hillbilly accent.
Because they're all hillbillies. Yeah. That's why. Except for George Morales, who's some kind of fucking Mexican or something. I don't know what he is. Cuban. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. The rest of them are hillbillies.
That's crazy that that's just okay with them.
It's
just
totally... Yeah, just fatigue. They acted like they weren't like, we need to do an investigation, like when a plane goes down and see what happened. Was it No, they were just like, boat fatigue. Literally, just boat fatigue. No, can't.
There's no plane fatigue.
No plane. It just doesn't disintegrate in
There's
midair.
no car fatigue.
No, imagine
when a car's fatigued, it rolls to a...
It's an 85 CRX. Yeah, boy, that thing's been on the road a long time.
Damn, that's tired.
Ooh-wee, boy, let me tell you something.
The bigger the explosion, the more tired it is.
So now, 1986, things start to come to a bit of a head legally. For the noose is starting to tighten with the government around all of this stuff. Whittington is arrested.
Real quick,
our buddy Whittington.
I hate to stop us here, but how do that expresses how fucking crazy these guys are?
Yeah.
Because that is an option. Excuse me, for in your race, there is an option of just boat fatigue explosion. And you're riding against that.
No. They're thinking, okay, we could win, we could lose, boat could disintegrate,
or we could get tired.
We could just be driving, and next thing you know, we're vapor.
Feels like winning.
That's the option. Okay, let's take it. Oh wait, 4 drowning. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, move it. Let's go. Let's do it. Who
Let's
the fuck
do
does
it.
that? We'll see later. Fucking Kramer's a lunatic, and this is the least crazy thing he does.
That's psychotic.
So, Whittington, Lanier's driving partner there, who had his own smuggling organization. I hope you guys can keep all these parts. Hope you have to listen a couple of times, maybe get all the characters straight, because there's a lot of them. But Whittington, Randy Lanier's driving partner there, that he came up with in '84, he is sentenced to 15 years in prison for smuggling himself.
Oh, no.
Not good.
I feel like that's the end of his racing career.
Yeah. Now, Lanier at this point's like, oh, shit. He's got to disassociate himself.
Absolutely.
Because he's smuggling, too. And this is his buddy. So he's like, oh, shit.
Disassociate yesterday.
Exactly. So he says, in their own words on Randy Lanier here, quote, I didn't even know Bill was in trouble. We heard rumors for years. It's unfortunate, but I don't think less of him as a person. I just hope people will take me on my driving skills, not whom I associate with. So he's trying to be like, I don't
Look
know,
at me.
poor guy.
Yeah.
Shoot, boy. Hey, you know what? At least I'm a driver. That's all. I don't know what people do outside of the track. None of my business, boy. That was his take on it.
We keep it clean around here. That ain't me.
We keep it clean,
Yeah.
buddy. Now, because in 1986, at the same time, Lanier is trying to enter the Indy 500 as a driver. He says, quote, I wanted to win it. So he's serious about this shit. He signs a contract with Frank Arceriero, who's got a race team, I guess a famous race team here. Lanier would drive the whole IndyCar season for him in this contract. At the time, like in IndyCar, it was Mario Andretti, AJ Foyt, people like that anybody's heard of, even if you don't know shit about racing. Season starts, looking bright. Impending doom on the horizon here. A couple weeks after, before the Indy 500, now Whittington is arrested again for tax evasion and fraud and smuggling. This is what they do. They arrest you the first time, and then they keep bringing waves, more charges. So they end up stacking 50 years on top of 60 years on top of 40 years. This is the deal.
And this guy wasn't very good at hiding all of his shit, apparently.
Apparently not. He's arrested for fraud, tax evasion, and smuggling, quote, multi-ton quantities of marijuana.
Wow.
So he's doing a lot, and he's busted for it.
And they
here.
know.
And now in 86, articles start coming out about drug money and racing. Because based on him. Because he's part of the race team.
He's going to bring them all down.
So he doesn't say anything. None of these fucking guys rat for the most part. Most of them keep their fucking mouths shut, which is really kind of an old school.
Yeah.
I give them credit for that.
There's not a lot of people who do that these days.
I mean, because they have so much money, they're like, I just want to get out of here and spend that money I have buried somewhere.
Right, and there's a lot of people's lives riding on this, too. They've all got families, and they're all being supported with this shit.
And they're all mixed up with Colombians.
Right.
So they know if I say anything, my whole family will probably be dead. So
Bodies
maybe I should
disappear.
shut the fuck up.
Right.
Yeah. So they're all saying that Lanier was in an awkward spot with the Whittington thing, since, he had a team with him and no one knew where his team money came from because they're all... Now the jet ski shop is looking especially suspicious at this point. It was always a little shady, but now it's like, come on, what's he doing in those jet skis? Give me a fucking break here. But he just denied knowing shit about Whittington's thing here.
Good for him.
Now, May 22nd, 1986, Kramer, back on the water here, he wins the open class in the third offshore power boat race of the season. Whatever the fuck that means. It's a 146.7-mile course, going 90 miles an hour on a boat. So, that's some shit right there. His average speed was 89.61 miles an hour.
Wow.
So he's averaging 90. That's just screaming.
That's really
for
moving.
150 miles, man.
In a
That's
cigarette
nuts.
boat.
And he finishes 17 minutes ahead of the second place guy.
Wow.
So, I mean, he's crushing.
Yeah.
Shit. He's just the ballsiest guy out there. Nobody raced like him.
Has time to watch a Seinfeld episode on TiVo without the commercials.
Yeah, I mean, and Lanier wins Rookie of the Year honors at the Indy 500 that year. He gets into the Indy 500 in 86. He wins Rookie of the Year. He also, he has a bad accident, though, Randy Lanier.
Really?
In August 2nd, 1986, at Michigan 500, he blows a tire out, hits a wall at 214 miles an hour. That hurts.
Yeah.
214,
That's
boy.
what killed
I don't know
Dale
what that is in
Earnhardt.
kilometers,
Right.
East European people, but that's fucking fast.
Yeah.
They had to put a metal rod in his leg to put it back together. He was a mess.
That's what killed Dale Earnhardt. And he hit it at like 140.
Yeah, so as the smuggling, though, keeps going, 86, I mean, now he's legit. He's racing in the Indy 500.
Yeah.
He starts having thoughts. At least he said he did. I don't think he did. I think he was going to keep going at this.
Yeah.
He kept saying, I should get out of this. But then every month he'd bring in like $8 million and go, maybe a couple more months. Just maybe a couple more. I kind of like having that cash. So he says, in their own words, Randy Lanier said, quote, each year it grew a little more. I planned on my last load for the fall of 1986. It was going to be my biggest load, then I planned on retiring. I told myself, I'm going to get out of the game, I just want to race. I had a feeling that maybe I could get out of it without being caught, unquote.
See,
unfortunately not, sir.
Yeah, no. It's a gambling lifestyle because it's the exact same sickness that a gambler has because you're gambling with much higher stakes. You're gambling. It's whether or not they're homeless. This guy's going to be having a home. It's just going to be with criminals.
It's going to be with concrete shoes
right.
on in the fucking.
And you don't
Everglades.
quit. You got to keep going because it's a gambler's lifestyle. It's a rush.
He pushed his luck a little too hard here in '86 because there's a federal investigation starting in Southern Illinois. Lanier ends up getting charged in Southern Illinois in the tip of an investigation that grows much bigger.
Right.
A state trooper, for overseas people, that's a police officer that just drives back and forth looking for fucking speeders. The best way to describe them. They're not investigating anything. They're just
on the highway.
They sit there with a radar gun and they collect ticket money for the state. He comes across, a state trooper comes across a broken down delivery truck, like a box truck.
Oh, boy.
And walks over to see what it's all about. Full of weed. Of course, it's delivering weed to a warehouse in Southern Illinois.
Yep.
This leads to an investigation, obviously, that leads to everything unfolding and them figuring out the Florida connection, and lower down people started flipping and blah blah blah.
Oh
blah.
no! Somebody's sitting up there high on the hog going, if it wasn't for that fucking box truck.
But I mean, they're sending out. Think about how risky this is. Their whole giant enterprise depends on sending out idiots in box trucks to not get pulled over.
Yeah.
Let's just keep our fingers crossed. Nobody gets pulled over ever, and everything will stay afloat. How tenuous is that organization? That's not like,
And it all comes crumbling down with a broken down box truck.
That's what I mean. If your organization, if you're making tens of millions of dollars, yet your organization can be brought to nothing, to ashes, by a box truck breaking down, you have not planned well.
By a flat tire,
sir.
and the driver going down the road to go get another tire.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, at this point, too, Arano had been building boats for Kramer.
Yeah.
Up until this, they were making boats, like custom shit for him to go faster and faster. Arano is his silver-haired, middle-aged white man. That's exactly what he is.
Yeah.
He idolizes him. He helps him out.
Yep.
He brought him into the world. He's building his boats to help him go faster. He sees him as a protege.
And encourages him to be a shithead.
Yeah. Well, Arano was the fastest guy ever on the water. Now he sees Kramer as like, this is the only guy with the balls that I had.
Right.
He's got the fucking balls. And plus, I think they were mixed up in drug smuggling together also, because everybody was in South Florida.
And when you love your idol,
idiot not to be.
Yeah. When you love your idol, if you meet him, you try to impress him.
Yeah.
And his impression is, I go fast, and guess what? I move a lot of fucking drugs.
That's the thing.
A lot of fucking drugs.
So indictments come down in August of '86. Now, not arrests, but indictments here. A Department of Justice spokesman said about the organization, quote, "Here we have a complete classical drug scheme in which, as the indictment alleges, 11 people conspired for 4 years to carry out a large-scale operation."
11 people.
So that's 11 people are named in these indictments. Charges state that the enterprise had paid for 8 motorboats and 17 properties, including apartment buildings and shopping centers.
Wow.
And fucking race teams.
They're
They don't
money
mention that,
laundering,
but and race teams and every other goddamn thing.
Yeah.
And that's when you find out later, they weren't even close with their estimate of shit here. And they would, over the years, keep collecting more and more. Into the 90s, they're still confiscating shit.
Wow.
As we'll see. September 11th, 1986... After this is going on, Kramer is still racing.
Wow.
He crashes at the Coca-Cola Offshore 212 in Rochester, New York. A mile into the race, their Apache boat hits a wave and just slams into another wave, basically.
Wow.
Slams into it, goes under.
Yep.
They're underwater.
Taking on water, sure.
It was a dangerous situation. Ben Kramer, on the crash, he says, quote, "I thought I was dead. When that water came down on top of me, I thought it was definitely gone this time. We were lucky we weren't going as fast and our boat had a little buoyancy. As soon as the water pressure let off, I just wanted to live."
Wow.
So I could go to prison for fucking ever, because that's what's going to happen. But
wow.
This is the danger he's living in. He's got Colombian drug dealers on one side, and then his recreation basically is even fucking more dangerous.
And then the law chasing him for both.
Oh yeah, we'll get the law on our ass too. Why not? Grab them. So October '86, they bring in charges against all these people for smuggling 100,000 pounds of marijuana into South Florida between September '83 and June of '85.
On one shipment.
This is multiple shipments.
Okay.
This is several, but this is a tip of what they were doing, and only a tip of the charges that are going to come. They all get charged in multiple rounds, basically. But Kramer is still free on November 7th, 1986, because he's involved in a race that, of course, kills a man, kills a crew. Same thing that happened to him where they hit the wave happened to another crew and they all died. And they were, once again, were like, yes, you hit the wave and sometimes you go down. I mean, it's just choppy.
It's safer to be a crab fisherman.
They literally were like, it's just choppier than we thought.
Jesus.
I mean, like, so some people die when it's choppier than you think.
It's just what
way
happens.
way more dangerous than being a crab fisherman. These guys would be fucking sleeping on the crab boat. They'd be so fucking bored. Are you kidding me? Like, Jesus Christ, are we going to race the other crab boat or something at least? Tell you what, let's see who can hit the... We'll each hit a glacier.
Yeah.
We'll see who sinks last. How's that for a competition? Like, they would have to do shit like that.
Something.
Jump in the... Tell you what, I'm going to take my pants off. I'm going to jump into the crab vat nuts first. Yeah, this is a disaster. Of Kramer now gets arrested in November for all of this. And it's so funny because people in the boat racing world are trying to act like they're disgraced by it, which is hilarious.
Right.
They're all
doing it
doing
too.
this.
Yeah.
And so this guy, John D'Elia, who's a douchebag and a fellow racer, says, quote, "I'm sorry to say he has really put a bad light on the sport. Just like when those pro football players get caught dealing drugs." What are you, 100 years old, you fucking idiot?
Somebody put another extra round of duct tape on the weed in the barrel.
And it sounded like he wanted to say blacks.
Yeah.
Doesn't it sound like it's like when them blacks playing football, running around, jumping all high, get caught selling the drugs. It sounds like
hilarious.
Like, yeah, he just sounded very rednecky, but he's acting like they're all above that. Like, I don't know any drug smugglers.
Yeah.
Everyone around you is, you asshole.
Put that hatch down. Don't let the news camera see it.
You're in Miami powerboat racing, dickhead. So Lanier posts bail after this. They let him post bail. You figure he's a famous guy. He knows you can keep an eye on him.
Gonna have a little scratch.
No, immediately gets on his boat, takes the fuck off.
Really?
Goes to the Caribbean. From the Caribbean, he goes to Monte Carlo. He goes around Europe.
Oh my
he goes
God.
to South America. He is on the lam, boy.
He's on a tour.
He ain't interested.
No.
He's got shitloads of money, and he is not interested.
Not interested in coming back.
He's in Barbuda, whatever
Barbados?
the fuck. No, it's Barbuda. I don't know what that is. One of those small town whatever islands here.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's early '87. He's fishing, and Lanier sees a small plane land in a grassy field. And he's like, "That's weird for early in the morning.
Yeah.
Planes don't usually, land there." And it turns out it was 2 FBI agents that had found him and arrested him later on in the day. They bring him back in. No bail this time. Now he's a hardcore flight risk because he's got a shitload of cash and a history of fleeing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, he's. They offer him a deal to turn informant, but he refuses that deal. Doesn't want to turn informant, which, good for him. He's got some kind of something. They want to seek sentencing under the Super Kingpin Act.
All right.
It's a super kingpin law. It's under a drug act of 1984. It's one of those 80s tough on drugs. We will take the kingpins and crush them and all that.
We'll go from
shit.
the top to the bottom.
Exactly. It's one of those just bullshit politician.
Yeah.
We're going to be tough 80s bullshit things that they did. They're looking for life without parole.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So
That's
they're
it.
They're not fucking around with this. It's like 40 years up to life without parole, and they are seeking life without parole.
For weed.
Yeah. Lanier says in court, quote, a person should, in their own words, quote, a person should not have to spend the rest of his life in prison just for marijuana.
I can't agree with him more.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
I do not
He's not
disagree
bringing
with
in
that.
missiles, for Christ's sake. You know
Goodness,
what I mean?
no. And for you're just bringing weed. That's it.
Yeah.
You're trying to get some 17-year-old to forget that he goes to high school. That's it.
That's the thing.
And getting some dude in his 30s to forget that every day he wakes up just looking forward to the next time he goes back to bed. That's it.
That's it. It's sad. And this guy's going to go to jail for life. And they're looking for Kramer, him. They want to life these guys up. In January of '87, the FBI brings additional charges of smuggling another 150,000 pounds into the U.S. over a different period.
Yeah.
So now they're just breaking it up into little areas and really trying to fuck these guys really hard. Of the organization, the DEA officials said that they set up numerous fictitious organizations to launder money through foreign banks. Foreign banks, too. They weren't fucking around.
Right.
This was crazy. One of their holding companies was called, quote, G. Reedy Holding Company.
That's
greedy.
Yeah.
Greedy
I
Holding
like it.
Company. That's what I mean. They had a sense of humor.
Sounds
about it,
perfect.
too. They knew what they were doing. He said the DEA agent said they laundered money in banks throughout England, Panama, British Virgin Islands. They had Scotland Yard investigating them because of the Virgin Islands connection.
Wow.
So, I mean, they had international governments looking for them at this point.
This is a big fucking deal now.
Feds seized the assets organizations. organization's assets. Lanier's assets alone that they seized,
Oh, God.
$150 million.
That's awesome.
$150 million he had
Awesome.
lying around.
In weed.
For
In
weed.
weed money.
Think about what the coke dealers were making. Think about what the coke dealers are making.
It's ridiculous.
Way more than this.
And this is what drugs. This is the industry that the government doesn't want to legalize. When there's that kind of cash laying around, that's insane.
So everybody's in jail.
Yeah.
They're all awaiting their complete ass pounding that they're going to get here. February 3rd, 1987. It's Miami. 1987, February 3rd, 1 month before Hulk Hogan body slammed Andre the Giant in WrestleMania 3, guys. This is the time period we're talking about here. Don Aronow, has he's in his office. Mm-hmm. There's a man comes in claiming that his name is Jerry Jacoby. He says that he works for a very rich man and he wants to buy a 60-foot boat from Aronow.
All right.
So Aronow says, what do you do for this rich guy? Who the fuck are you, basically?
Yeah.
And the guy said, quote, I'll do anything for him. I'd even kill for him. And then he turned around and left, which is an odd thing.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's a weird one, right? So Aronow thinks that's a little weird, but he has to go. He has a meeting at Apache Boats, which is Ben Kramer's company, with Ben Kramer's partner, Bob Cicenti. He has a meeting with him. I guess it's just a personal meeting. They say they used to meet all the time and shoot the shit. They were old pals here, and all their businesses are on the same street. It's called Thunderboat Row. Okay, and it's all the shit that Aronow built. It's all the companies that he built, the companies that branched off of that. This is where all the racing boats to him, obviously, because that's what happens in Miami.
That's how it happens.
This guy, his friend, sees this in the rearview mirrors. Some words are exchanged. Sees the guy put his arm out and shoot Aronow a whole bunch of times and take off. So Aronow is shot the fuck up.
Yeah.
They go and find him. He's shot in the wrist, chest, groin. He's shot all up. A total drug hit, basically. I mean, it's obvious it's a drug hit. Okay.
Jacoby came in to see who he's looking for.
Exactly.
And get a visual.
And the funny part is the friend who was going to meet Aronow at his house saw the man in the Lincoln, made eye contact with him, said it wasn't the same guy that the secretary described as Jacoby.
Yeah.
These are different people.
Uh-oh.
So it wasn't even the same guy.
All right.
Maybe he was just scoping it out to see if he was around. Who knows what was going on. But this is an obvious hit. This isn't like they didn't get in an argument over a parking space. This is a fucking hit, obviously and clearly. So now a friend, this is the Mike Britta. Mike Britton is the guy who witnessed the whole thing here. He ends up later on, they bring him into lineups for the guy they want. It's crazy. They have a suspect.
Yeah.
And he comes in, doesn't see the guy he saw in the Lincoln, and they go, we think we got the right guy. Why don't you take another look? Like that type of shit. This gets very shady very fast, okay? So, guys, this is really, you really got to pay attention. It gets crazy, okay? Now, immediately
Poor Steve Avery.
Oh, poor Steve Avery, boy. Yeah, he's got nothing on this guy here. This guy Kramer's maybe even more fucked over than anybody we've talked about.
Yeah.
I think he is the guy, everybody else would have been out.
Yeah.
Except he got fucked, and we'll talk about it. Immediately upon news of Aronow's murder, the vice president's office is calling the Miami Homicide Department because George Bush is good buddies with Aronow.
Yeah.
And he's saying, does this have anything to do with drug dealers by any chance? Because they want to know if they're going to be embarrassed that a guy that Bush was good friends with and bought a bunch of boats off of was a fucking drug smuggler. Yeah. So they want everything. The Miami department have to make special reports for the vice president's office every day.
Wow.
That's how involved they are.
Wow.
They want to know every last bit of what's going on so they can get ahead of the spin, basically. Because,
all
it's
because
politics.
of a fucking box truck.
All because of a box truck and a little bit of fucking weed, man. Insanity. Good Lord. So, obviously, the authorities are interested in this Jerry Jacoby fellow.
Yeah.
They can't find him. Aronow's wife puts up a $100,000 reward for any information, obviously. Nothing is forthcoming. Apparently, before the murder, in the days leading up to the murder, Aronow had made several calls to George Bush. Kept talking to George Bush.
Yeah.
There's a big rumor that Aronow was that he was in trouble with whoever he was in business with.
And he may be an informant.
Yes. Yeah. He was telling people that his life was in danger. He was telling his wife to be careful.
Yeah.
He said he wrote out a letter and he said instructions, if anything happens to me, do this. And the first thing on the list was call George Bush and fucking let him know this happened. So
I have nothing going in my life right now where I'd be like, baby,
No.
if anything happens, call Obama.
I'd be like, if anything, call Obama. If anything happens, call the vice president. Call Joe Biden, please.
Call Joe Biden, get
Let him
Jill on the
know.
horn, and let her know that her husband needs to talk to you.
You know how it goes. We all want everyone to call the second most highest office holder in the land when we die, just in case. So there's so many suspects with the Aronow case, they don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
Because, is it, who knows, business rivals, drug lords, he's selling boats to smugglers left and right? Is it jealous husbands of women he's banging around town because he's got all...
Yeah.
They're like, they have no idea where to start. They're like, this is like wow, open up the phone book. Maybe it's that guy.
A million people could hate him.
Could be anybody. So we'll take a break from Aronow for a minute. We'll get back to him. Aronow is cooling down.
All right.
He's on a slab now, cooling, okay? Now, in 87, an FBI agent says he can tie the Lanier and mostly Kramer enterprise to at least 6 executions and more, but those are the ones he has said there's evidence of. Only one is brought to court. Lanier isn't charged ever for that. In July 88, the trial begins. These federal trials take a while. They build their evidence. They don't fuck around.
Yeah.
They're not sitting there for a month waiting. You're there for a year and a half, obviously. July 88 trial begins. Witnesses testify to seeing Lanier give Kramer $100,000 cash at a time in an envelope for deliveries, things like that. They were telling how the money flowed up to the top, how the whole operation
Assholes.
worked. Yeah, there's underlings that didn't have $60 million cash buried in the Everglades that wanted
I
deals.
get their motivation, but they're dicks.
And they're facing 80 years in jail, 100
but they're
years
still
in jail.
dicks.
They're still dicks. So Lanier,
They knew what they were getting in. If they know all this information, they knew what lifestyle they were leading. You're a dick. You open your mouth after that, you're a dick.
I agreed. You know exactly what you're into, and they're going to fucking hang these guys for it. So Lanier is all teary-eyed in court. The judge was getting mad at him, saying he was, like, you know...
Trying to sway the jury.
Yeah, he was being shitty to him, basically. Lanier's attorney said, it's so sad how they have to play this card, because it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
He said that, quote, Lanier, quote, succumbed to the irresistible lure of marijuana at an early age. It's like, he was fucking getting high and eating Cheetos.
Right.
They make it sound like he was out. He had to go murder women ritualistically. He had to. It's not Ted Bundy.
No.
He's fucking selling weed.
They're not off to the fucking La Bianca house.
That's what I
It's
mean.
fucking weed.
Yeah. And all of these underlings that are testifying, his attorney said, Lanier's attorney said, quote, proof will show that the federal government has entered into an unholy alliance with a bunch of drug smugglers, which encouraged them to minimize their roles.
That's a great lawyer.
Yeah.
I like that lawyer.
They're saying, I didn't do anything. It's all Randy Lanier and Kramer, man. We didn't own anything.
I just like turning wrenches and building boats.
Absolutely. Now, December of 88, December 5th, sentencing comes around because they're all guilty of everything, obviously. They all get found guilty of all of these. And I would, like I said, there's a drug smuggling, there's fraud, there's tax evasion, money laundering, and there's several rounds of it. So we'll just, round.
You have to. God damn it.
They are the judge, U.S. District Judge, James Foreman. This is his sentencing quote. And I have to say it, but it's annoying as shit because it's just bullshit. It's you'll see here. Quote, you have caused a lot of heartache and ruined a lot of lives in this country. Bullshit. It's a you sir may fuck off, but it's not a good fuck off. Like it's not.
He didn't even practice that one.
If you sodomize four women, that's when you're like, you sir may fuck off.
Right.
Get in that goddamn jail and never come out. But this is like, I don't want him to fuck off. It's bullshit. So they sentence him to life without parole. Lanier, Kramer, all of them get life without parole, man.
Ouch.
How sick is that? He denies emotion. This is brilliant, and I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Now. This is what wise asses these guys are. Keep in mind, everybody's white, okay?
Yeah.
Everybody is white, trash, redneck, turned millionaire, okay? They filed a motion to dismiss the indictment because they claim the grand jury that indicted them was, quote, constitutionally invalid because there was no black people on it.
I like it.
Nobody involved in the case is black. He said, it's not fair because I didn't have a jury. There was no black people on my jury. The judge said, are you out of your fucking mind? You're an idiot. Dismissed.
Can I call HR because...
Holy shit. That's brilliant, honestly. I was fucking impressed with that, personally. I thought that was brilliant.
That's awesome.
But, Kramer, Lanier, and Eugene A. Fisher, who's another co-conspirator, received life in prison without parole. They're sentenced under the 84 Super Drug Kingpin provision of the Continuing Crime Enterprise statute, which is just federal bullshit to put people away for longer.
Yeah.
Part of the war on drugs horse shit. Randy Lanier said, fucking, this is a good in their own words. In their own words, quote, I was willing to do 10 years, a sane amount to keep me from doing it again. It's brilliant. Like, that was fine.
Right.
10 years would have been plenty. Life's a little steep.
Right. This is a bit stiff, fellas.
Okay, now, here's where the fun starts. As if we aren't having fun already,
Yeah.
this is where, if nothing has got crazy yet,
Yeah.
this is where the fun shit happens,
Yeah.
okay? December 88, they were holding Kramer up in New York, at Raybrook, New York, in a federal prison, okay? He's transferred down to the Federal Metropolitan Correctional Facility in Miami to face charges. He's got another smuggling indictment against him in Fort Lauderdale, a separate thing from Lanier, and also a gun charge in Miami.
Oh, no.
Which he's already been convicted for. He's coming down for
He's
sentencing.
already rocked up for life.
He's already in parole
Yeah.
for life, right? So he's down there. This is great, right? And in this also, too, his father, Jack, is charged in this case.
Oh, no.
A guy named Sam Gilbert, who's an L.A. millionaire, contractor, and a big-time crooked UCLA sports booster. It's like, so more sports shit in here, so he's involved. He apparently laundered tens of millions of dollars for this organization here. And before this indictment, the Gilbert guy, Sam Gilbert, dies 4 days before the indictment. Not even suspiciously.
Really?
He just dropped dead.
He was like, I can't do this.
Lucky
I'm going to
son
die.
of a bitch. He had boat fatigue. It just exploded into nowhere. I was going fast for too long, and just boom, it disintegrated. So, Gilbert's son, Michael, is also involved, and also the Marvin Kessler, the crooked drug lawyer, is also charged in this
Good.
case, too.
Fuck
yeah,
him.
good. Fuck him.
That's the only one in this
Another
whole thing that I
silver-haired,
fucking
middle-aged
don't
white
like.
man.
Good.
So this is the first case ever where our guy killed his friend, his middle-aged white man. We'll get into that. It comes up. So here we go. April 17th. Holy shit. Jimmie, boy, oh boy. April 17th, 1989. And you'll see in a lot of articles it says 1990. It's not fucking 1990. It's fucking 1989 because I dug up LA Times articles and Miami Herald articles with the date on them. So anybody, if you see 1990, not that anyone's looking this up except for me, but just in case, it's not 1990. It's 1989, Cox, because I looked it up. Trust me. I cross-referenced that shit. Kramer is 34 years old at this time.
Yep.
He's in a high-security area, of the prison.
Uh-huh.
He goes for a walk in the yard. There's an early morning. There's about a half dozen inmates outside. They're playing basketball and cards and shit like that. It's an overcast morning.
Yep.
Out of nowhere, a helicopter appears in the south sky and lowers into the fucking yard.
Into
now,
the prison yard?
the yard's only 47 feet across.
Oh, my God.
So this is a tight squeeze, okay? So
And those blades are like 30 feet.
so this is a tight squeeze,
You got
right?
5 on each side.
It's a small two-seater helicopter. It's a Bell Model 47D-1, in case anybody's a helicopter aficionado, because I fucking looked it up. I want to know everything, damn it. So the chopper lowers into the prison yard. Kramer reaches up and grabs one of the skids, and this fucking thing takes off.
Awesome.
He has set up a helicopter prison yard escape.
El Chapo's got nothing on him.
Nothing.
That is amazing.
Instead of going underground, he's going above ground, baby.
I love him.
Grabs onto the skid, helicopter starts taking off.
007 style.
Not quite as slick, because it starts tilting to the right because one of the rotors gets caught in the barbed wire on top of the fence that holds the fence up. It teeters, the helicopter crashes into the 14-foot high fence, teeters in it for a while like a fly caught in a spider web, and then falls face first into the ground.
Oh, no. Does he die?
No, he does not die.
Wow.
Inmates start rushing over. Some say they were to go trying to help. Some say trying to escape. The fence is fucked up now.
And also maybe seeing if we can fix that helicopter.
Armed guards encircle the area. There's fuel leaking out everywhere also. The pilot is a guy named Charles Clayton Stevens. He's got both his legs are broken.
Sounds like a major hillbilly. He built this thing in his backyard.
No, he didn't. As we'll find out how he got this. Both his legs are broken. He's got internal damage. Kramer fractures an ankle in the melee here.
He twists an ankle, that's all. That's
The
great.
warden of the prison, Jean Clark, said, quote, "They gave it a try, and they sure made a mess of it," which I think is just as simplistic as you can get.
That's an awesome
They gave it a
escape
try.
attempt. Yeah.
Stevens,
Had they made it, that warden's quote would have been entirely different. I don't know how that should happen.
But apparently Stevens, the shitty pilot, had been taking flying lessons only for about 5 or 6 months, and needed a little more to maneuver this. Took lessons at a small Miami private airport. He told the people at the flying school he wanted to be a crop duster. So that's what he was doing there.
I got to get low.
I got to get real low. Can I get low? How low can I?
Yeah.
What if there's crops that are coming up about 14 feet high, about 47 feet apart?
They got
from
barbed
each other?
wire on top of the corn out there.
Yeah, it's weird. Scarecrows are bad out there. The crows, you need scarecrows on barbed wire. Let me tell you something. So Kramer's going to be charged with an attempted escape, obviously. Stevens, the pilot's going to be charged with aiding an escape. Stevens turns out is from Oregon, and the FAA had the helicopter bought under his name in January of this year. So this has been going on for months. This is April that this happened. So
this is a very well thought out plan.
Excuse me. Authorities are investigating, obviously, how Kramer can set up such an elaborate plot from prison.
Yeah.
I like this too. Clark, the warden, on this is what do they have contingency plans for helicopter escapes?
Yeah.
And he said, quote, "I won't tell you everything, but if we have a clear shot at an inmate boarding, we'll take the shot."
Awesome.
So he was risking his life in more than one way. Kramer,
we'll shoot that sumbitch.
and they're trying to figure out where his money is too, because they
clearly he's got a lot
from Kramer. They confiscated $20 million in cash from him.
Wow.
And they estimate that he had at least another $60 million out there somewhere, laundered, spent, pissed away, something. So they were like,
stuck in a hole in Florida.
Yeah. I mean, he could be doing something like, I don't know, having boat moguls shot. Who knows, in the streets.
Yeah.
Who knows? So we'll see. So at this point, we get to June 5th, 1989, and Mark Kramer, Ben's brother, is arrested and held without bail at this point, because after the investigation, there's charges for helping plot his brother's escape at this point.
Wow.
Federal magistrate said that Mark plotted the escape over the phone with his brother, bought the helicopter, recruited the pilot, sent him to helicopter school, did everything.
Wow.
Charges of aiding and abetting an escape and conspiracy to assist an escape. Deputy U.S. Marshal Thomas Figment testified that Ben called his brother from prison in March, said he mentioned, they had codes.
Yeah.
He mentioned the theme song to MASH, Suicide is Painless, because at the end they go up in a helicopter with the song, which is fucking hilarious.
Or however that song goes.
Yeah.
That's it.
So Ben said something about, quote, the doctor and, quote, an injury. Said that Ben on the phone said that $7,000 would be needed for an operation to repair something. So they're like going over costs.
Wow.
We need to pay this guy. We need to grease this guy.
Yeah.
We need this much for a helicopter. So Stevens, this is the broken-legged pilot here, made a deal to cooperate. He said that Mark Kramer gave him $60,000 for a Piper Aztec, $35,000 for the two-seater helicopter using the escape, and $34,500 for another plane. That was because the plan was helicopter him out to a small airport where they have a plane waiting to fly him to Colombia, where he has connections and money probably also. So
$35,000 is all it costs for a helicopter?
This was for a small plane, and this was a two-seater little shitty helicopter.
All right.
Like you could put it together in your backyard.
Really?
Well, not you, but a mechanically inclined person.
All right.
You know what I mean? So, not me either. This is not an insult, trust me. So he paid for Stevens' helicopter lessons because Stevens knew how to fly planes but not helicopters, so he had to have that.
A little refresher.
Helicopter, they found the guy who they bought it from, said that it was bought in cash money, $35K, mostly hundreds. So that's awesome right there. It would have been only better if it was in rolled up like $1 bills like they're doing coke off it. So Stevens, the pilot, tells authorities that Mark Kramer, the brother here, threatened him into helping with the escape. Assistant U.S. Attorney David Katz said that Kramer, quote, repeatedly told him, "Don't rip me off, don't rip my brother off. If you don't go through with it, or if you screw it up, we know where your family is. My brother is a powerful and influential person."
Oh, shit.
So he's threatening him. Also said that Kramer told Stevens that he knew where his daughter lived and all this type of shit. So he said he was threatening Stevens.
So where do I sign up?
Where do I sign up for this enterprise here? A police source familiar with Stevens said that Stevens was, quote, a mercenary type who'd do anything for hire. So, who knows who's right and who's wrong. They're all scum. It doesn't matter. They're all fucking jackasses, especially these people that we get into. They're more scum than... I feel like Lanier and Kramer were having a good time.
Yeah.
Except for murdering people in their enterprise. Just smuggling weed's fine. But so Kramer's attorney, Mark Kramer's attorney, Larry Rosen, said the statements Stevens made were after the crash when he was in pain. So we can't take those for, on face value. Rosen denied, the attorney here, denied that it was even Mark on the phone with Ben. He said, how do you even know that was Mark on the phone with Ben making these plans? You don't have any proof. Just because Ben said it was Mark, that doesn't mean it's Mark on the other end.
That's a good point. He's singing the tune to MASH. I mean...
He did say, hey, Mark, how you doing? But that could have just been code.
Yeah.
We don't know it's him.
Could have been somebody else.
Sure, same voice, same name, but come on, guys.
Got a point.
So Mark was living in a $7,000 a month Beverly Hills home.
Oh, my God.
In 1989, $7,000 a month. So that's a high mortgage. The mortgage was being paid by one of the drug ring's front companies.
All right.
It was the one that the LA guy was washing the money from there. When Mark was arrested, he was in a one-bedroom in LA apartment. He's in an LA apartment, one bedroom, living like a fucking comedian, except with less roommates.
He's living in fucking Glendale somewhere.
He's just about to go to an open mic at like 8:30, and they bust in the door and take him down. Fucking
some
terrible.
place that smells all musty.
They're like, I was going to go I need cheese sticks, please, guys. So the plan, of course, was to get Ben to Colombia. That never happened here. Ben Kramer, here, our main guy, is eventually sentenced to 125 extra months in prison for this and a $100,000 fine for the
125 extra months?
125 extra months.
That's 10
another 10
years.
extra years. He's life without parole.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Tack it
10
on.
years for
assholes.
trying to escape? That's crazy.
It is. That's a long time. In that spectacular fashion.
In an amazing way.
No, it's just for the entertainment value. Never mind. Wash.
Yeah.
We're going to call it a day on that
Those
one.
Alcatraz guys that made paper mache heads and
Pussies.
shit, that's nothing.
Pussies. They didn't
Nothing.
grab onto a helicopter skid like some kind of action star.
You're trying to do it one-handed. That's amazing.
Dude, that's some action star shit right there. That's if he was shooting with the other hand, that would have been the other.
A 50 cal that's like impossible to shoot.
So Mark gets sentenced to 90 months in prison, which is stiff, plus 3 years supervised released. They all put appeals. They all have attorneys, so there's appeals going out. They lose all of these appeals. They tell them to just go fuck themselves.
Yep.
Ben Kramer, in the Fort Lauderdale case that he was down in Florida to begin with when he tried to escape, he receives another 40 years for that.
Whoa.
And another 5 years for the possession of a weapon by a felon down in Miami that he had been down there for. Jesus Christ. This is a fucking...
So he's just got time on top of time.
People are in jail for life, Jimmy.
Yeah.
People are dead.
Yeah.
Fortunes have been lost.
It's all over.
It's such a fucking... Just everything is so messed up. I mean, the level of just destruction and all of this is so... And I feel bad. Jimmy, I feel bad for all these people. But not nearly as bad as I feel for Ben Kramer, the vice president of immunology and ophthalmology units at Genentech Roche in San Francisco. Or Ben Kramer, the history teacher at Springfield High School in Springfield, Illinois, who's also an assistant men's basketball coach at the Lincoln Land Community College.
Don't fuck up, sir. We'll talk about you, too.
Yeah, Ben Kramer, the CFO and senior vice president of 10X Capital Management with a master's of finance from the University of North Carolina.
He's got it together.
Look at him. Ben Kramer, member of the board of directors for the Laramie Humane Society in Fort Collins, Colorado.
He's a sweet man.
And an attorney for Gus Johnson and Muffley, practicing in the areas of real estate and business law. If you need to contact the Laramie Humane Society, it's 970-226-3647. Their hours are 11 to 7 p.m.
Don't Google him because they'll talk about this fucking guy.
They'll talk about this guy. Poor little Ben Kramer, the high school freshman football guy on the football players, a running back, cornerback, for the Blue Mountain freshman football team in Schuylkill Haven, Pennsylvania. Little 5'8", 140-pound Chef Ben Kramer, the custom catering in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Chef Ben Kramer at gmail.com if you guys want to drop him a line and explain what a poor son of a bitch he is. Kramer with a K, guys. Ben Kramer, state delegate for District 19 in Montgomery County, Maryland.
Oh, my God.
BenKramer.org if you want to drop him a line. Last but not least, Rabbi Ben Kramer.
Oh, no. I was going to say, there has to be a Jewish guy in here.
Leader of the temple in Munster, Indiana. There you go,
That's
guys.
terrific.
Those people are the people I feel bad for.
Yeah.
Now, Lanier, he's doing okay in prison. He's in prison, but in 1990, he marries a woman in a Wisconsin prison. That's nice. 1990 gets interesting for Kramer here, as June 12th, 1990, Robert S. Young, a 41-year-old man, is arrested for shooting Don Arno. Okay? Young has a slew of shit. He's a mess, this guy. Previous drug and murder convictions. He's in prison at this point already for murder. He's done already. This guy wow. The feds say he's been a prime suspect for a long time, basically. They've been looking at him. This is really shady here. Okay. This is shifty shit.
All right.
There's conspiracy books written about this. Literally.
Really?
Conspiracy books because Young ran a prostitution ring in the 70s. He also got caught smuggling weapons into Cuba.
Into Cuba?
Into Cuba.
Uh-huh.
Which, you know who smuggles weapons into Cuba is the CIA.
Yeah.
And you know who ran the CIA is George Bush.
Right.
And you know who's involved in all this shit
Oh,
is George
no.
Bush. So they're basically saying they set this guy up as a fall guy because whatever, which I don't know if that's could be a load of shit, but
That's clever.
there's tentacles everywhere,
Yeah.
man. It's one of those things. He was in a Cuban jail down there when he was freed by Jesse Jackson, that Jesse Jackson.
Wow.
And when he was running for president in '84, and some deal he made with that, it's crazy shit.
So Young's a black guy.
Yeah, no, he's a white guy.
He's a white guy,
It's
and
a
Jesse
political
Jackson
prisoner.
took.
Well, it's a political prisoner.
Okay.
It was a political thing, trying to get whatever.
Jesse Jackson gave a shit.
Young was suspected of killing a drug dealer immediately upon returning to the U.S. in 1984, and never arrested, though. He's arrested for kidnapping in August of '87, skipped bail on that. In '88, he's rearrested and pleads guilty to the 1984 murder.
Gotcha.
And he goes down for fucking ever, basically. This is when the Mike Britton witness does not pick him out of a lineup.
Oh.
There's a lineup there. He's in it. He says, I don't see the guy. And I saw an interview with the Britton guy, and he said, guy I saw in the Lincoln wasn't in that lineup.
Right.
Prosecutor pulled me aside and said, listen, we think we got the right guy.
Yeah.
So why don't you go take another look? And he said, I went back in there, looked again, and said, still not there. I don't know what you want from me. He said, they don't want to talk to me anymore.
Where
after
is
that.
the guy? Because you say you got him, and I don't see him.
He saw the killing, and they said they just didn't want anything to do with him after that because they wouldn't
Wow.
say the guy that they wanted to say. So it's really shady here. Now, November 1st, 1990, a book comes out called Blue Thunder. Terrible, but guys, okay. Journalists, stop with the wordplay in your article titles and your puns and your horse shit, and book people, shorten your fucking titles up. It's succinct, guys. Listen to this. Blue Thunder, how the mafia owned and finally murdered cigarette boat king Donald Arno.
Jesus.
For Christ's sake.
Covers your whole cover of your book.
For goddamn it. Now, they don't know shit at this point. Nobody's been convicted of anything.
Wow.
They don't know how the mafia did it. Basically, it's just a speculative book about the mafia because Goodfellas came out that year. That's all it is, basically. It's bullshit.
It's like, we can find a story.
We can find a story.
We
We
can
can do
sell a
anything.
book.
Yeah. So at this point, 1991, federal agents confiscate Randy Lanier's brother's home. This is years later, saying that it was used for illegal activities in connection with the drug organization back in the day. The brother's never charged with a crime or anything. They just came in and took his home.
Wow.
I mean, that's how shitty the federal government is with these drugs. Anything back then, they made it so the drug shit was a license to put you in jail forever, take everything you ever owned.
Yeah.
If you had anything to do. It's ridiculous. 1993, the state of Florida indicts Ben Kramer for the murder of Arno. Now, this, I don't know how they telepathically figured this out because the thing is, Young never flips on him. Young never says that he told him to do it. There's no evidence of it.
Wow.
But they charge him with it.
Wow.
He's in jail for life without parole, so they can charge him and just wait to try him whenever they want and see what happens. So what they do is, this is messed up here. I'll get to that in 1 second. But in '93 also, Lanier's girlfriend, his wife at the time, Maria Della Louise Maggi Lanier.
Oh, boy.
Holy fuck.
I'm scared of her.
Yeah. She gets sentenced to 9 years in prison.
Oh, boy.
For money laundering in connection with the organization. So they're just trying to fuck everybody they can, and probably took her house and cars and whatever else she had. October 1995, Young pleads, the trigger man, finally pleads no contest to second-degree murder to spare him the death sentence. That's what it was. They were threatening death sentence.
Yeah.
Also, too, in this deal, he doesn't have to testify against Kramer. So basically, they're like, we don't even need you, even though we have no evidence.
How the hell do they get this?
It's a totally weak case. What they do is they keep him not in prison where there's like long-term accommodations.
Yep.
They keep him in the worst part of the Miami or of the Dade County jail.
Oh, Jesus.
For 3 years.
Oh, God.
They deny him medical care, dental care. They keep him in the coldest cell they can. They give him the worst food possible. They're trying to break him. They want somebody to say that fucking guy, they killed him so they can close it so it doesn't get tied back.
You want out of here? Just talk.
So it doesn't get tied back to anybody else. Because who knows? Because also, too, we're talking about drugs in South America. Bush was knee-deep and all the White House was knee-deep in trading arms for this one and that one and financing coups and everything else. This is deep shit. They
Yeah.
want no part of it. They want the book closed on this Arano asshole.
All because of a goddamn box truck.
All because of a fucking box truck, Jimmy. I'm telling you, man.
This is unbelievable.
It starts with just, that's what I mean. If this was a movie, that'd be the first scene would be a cop, like on a dark night.
Yeah.
You'd hear cop footsteps,
Yeah.
and then
Those
it would open
fucking
up on
shiny
him
shoes.
walking up with a flashlight, just looking at a box
The
truck.
flashlight pans
That would
across
be it.
the camera.
And then we'd go back to them racing
Yeah.
and all that, but we'd start in the middle like Goodfellas with, Billy Bats in the trunk. So, they keep him there for 3 years. They break him. Finally, in 96, because he's in for life without parole
Yeah.
anyway, he says, fine, I can't take it anymore in here. Pleads no contest to second-degree murder. He said, I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
This was after Young had pleaded no contest to and just taken it. He said, fine. Him and Young both get 19 years extra for this. That's their
Holy
deal.
shit.
No contest, second-degree murder, you each get 19 years.
Because they have no case, they just torture them until they say yes,
Yeah.
and then they go to prison for
And
it.
they go to prison, and then now that case is closed, and no one has to worry about it anymore, and George Bush can sleep at night.
Yeah.
So, while in prison, Lanier gets into yoga and meditation.
I would too.
He has a total, like, Kramer's trying to escape on helicopters
Yeah.
and fighting murder charges. This guy's, like,
It's
relaxing.
like namaste.
He's painting on canvas now and doing yoga and shit. Like, what are you fucking...
Raking in a sand yoga garden.
Yeah. He's just called a
Yoga.
model prisoner. Like, it's insane. Like how
Zen
nice they
garden,
all
that's
are.
what I was looking at.
Zen garden. There you go. In '99, his money laundering wife there, Maggie Louise, whatever the fuck, she divorces him in '99. So what do you expect? She got out of prison and was like,
Yeah.
"You're never getting out.
I got to carry on a life.
Life without parole here." Now, in 2008, there's an article about a guy who does these Alaska trips all the time, and the boat he does them on is the Ursa Major. And
Awesome.
he takes tourists up on these Alaska trips, and just in passing, they mention that it's really cool, too, to show everybody because it's outfitted for drug smuggling, because it used to belong to the big drug smuggler, Ben Kramer, who had it all specially outfitted
Yeah.
for drug smuggling. So there's like secret
And he
compartments
bought it
and
at
shit.
like a government auction or some shit.
That's what he did. And he's doing tours on it now, and it's like, that's just an extra thing. Like, this is the boat I need for that Alaska tour. Hey, cool, it was owned by a drug smuggler. So this is neat.
There's a selling point.
Yeah, the article was in a travel magazine that I
Awesome.
found, like some weird 2008 Northwestern travel magazine.
Hilarious.
Yes, I'm looking at 2008 Northwestern travel magazines, god damn it.
To dig for you guys.
Write us an iTunes review, please. For God's sake, I beg of you. I'm going to kill myself. I killed 3 pens for you this week, guys. You understand it? Not even pens I'm killing. So anyway, March 2010, Kramer tries to get his murder conviction thrown out. He's trying to get it thrown out.
Why? At this point, what does it matter?
What does it matter,
Yeah.
right? But he said apparently he says that Robert Young, the trigger man, told prosecutors right after the whole plea thing that Colombian drug dealers actually paid for the Arano hit and not him.
All right.
And he's trying to say that the prosecutor swept it under the rug and just convicted Kramer anyway,
Yeah.
which is probably true. Who
Yeah.
the fuck knows? I don't trust any of these people.
No.
I don't trust any of them. I don't trust the government. I don't trust any of this. There's also, too, locally, all sorts of corruption.
Oh,
too,
I'm
with
sure
this.
of that.
When
Yeah.
this case went down, the Arano shit, dominoes were falling
Yeah.
of local politicians. It was a mess.
And Florida's
down
a
there.
nightmare now.
Now,
And this
then,
is 40 years ago.
Drug
30
fueled
years
as
ago.
it could be.
Yeah.
So on December 15, 2010, his murder conviction is upheld. Now, he's fucked, Kramer. 'Cause he's got that, he's got all that. October 15th, 2014, Randy Lanier's released from a federal prison after
What?
27 years. Lately, this administration, the Obama administration, has been kind of commuting the long, crazy 80 sentences that
Yeah,
we got. These
yeah.
crazy, draconian, lunatic
He's
drug
righting a
sentences.
bunch of wrongs.
Yeah, he's commuting a bunch of these. Like, you've been in jail for 27 years for weed.
Yeah.
I think you can go. I think you learned your lesson.
Yeah.
So they do.
Go on home.
They release him after 27 years. He's sent to a Florida halfway house where he's got to spend like 3 years there.
Yeah.
He's going to be drug tested and shit like that every week. But he's psyched to be out. He doesn't give a shit.
I don't blame him at all.
Right?
I would be too.
October 19th, 2014, Lanier posts. He's got a Facebook profile now. He's on
Awesome.
social media. He posts a picture of himself. So friend Randy Lanier, guys, on Facebook, and give him some
Yeah.
fucking support.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he did 27 years for weed, guys.
yeah,
I
for
mean, we
moving
talk
a
about a
li-
lot of scumbags. Ben Kramer's a scumbag.
Yeah. Oh,
this
he's-
guy's not that much of a scumbag.
He's murdering people.
Yeah. So the caption here, it's Lanier at the beach in Florida, and the caption is, toes in the water, ass in the sand, no worries in the world, Trees, birds, and cars, no prison bars. Life is good today.
Oh,
Don't
he's
be a poet,
you
douchebag.
motherfucker.
You canvas painting fuckhead.
We
Stop
just
it.
talked about you being a great person.
And now
you
you're
fucking
doing it.
ruin it.
You know what? Don't friend Bob or friend him and call him a cunt. Something. No, friend him. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just tell him don't write poetry, asshole.
Stop with the poetry and your
Tell me
fucking Zen garden speeches.
Yeah, tell me some interesting drug smuggling stories. How about that? So that's where they sit. Lanier is hanging out. He works for a museum, a car museum, like a racing museum. Because
he knows.
He knows everything,
Yeah.
and he's a famous guy. And this is the guy people, I'm sure, go in there just to ask him about drug smuggling in Florida shit in the heyday and
He
all that.
invented Miami Vice.
Yeah, so I mean, that's that. And Ben Kramer's fucked. Ben Kramer's in jail. They looked at his case, and even with that, he's got murder, he's got other cases, he's got weapons. They're not touching his.
None.
He's tried to get it commuted there. He's not a sympathetic case.
No.
They look at Lanier and they're like, it's just weed and
Right.
money laundering for the weed. It's all weed.
Right.
They look at Kramer and they're like, this guy, who the fuck knows?
A box truck ruined this guy's life, whereas
this guy killed his silver-haired middle-aged
right.
white man.
Murdering ruined his life.
Think about this. Any silver-haired middle-aged white man around him felt the wrath. The lawyer went to prison, and the other guy got killed. So beware, silver-haired middle-aged white men all around the world.
There is shit that can happen to you, too.
It can happen to you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is Ben Kramer, and for some bit of it, too, Randy Lanier and Don Aronow and this whole South Florida racing drug mess of an 80s scene. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you expect that would be all there?
Those Reservoir Dogs and Crime and Sports. That's what that was. That was so
Jimmie,
deep.
We're doing a power boat race here. You're like, what?
It's so deep.
So, yeah, it's
deep as the ocean.
It's deep as the ocean,
Yeah.
man. It's crazy. So, I mean, that's what we're trying to do here. We're getting
love
deep,
it.
Jimmie.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I hope you guys like that.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun, man.
It's very intense, and if you were working, filing papers, you had a hell of a story.
You had a hell of a story because it's like deep and long. And like I said, go back and recheck the names and go through it. And it's not 1990. The escape attempt was in 89, you bastards.
And he crashed into a fence. That's my favorite part of it.
That's the most amazing thing is
Insane.
he grabs onto the skid and tries, take off now, go. It's like, who does that? That's awesome, man.
That's just, but that's the life that he was leading. Was just this desperate balls out
on the edge,
life.
man.
That's it.
Pushing the envelope. That's that, man. So hope you guys liked it. Hey, follow us on our social media, by the way, guys. crimeandsports@gmail.com, at Crime and Sports on Twitter, crimeandsports, or facebook.com/crimeandsports. Patreon page if you want to throw us a few bucks for our insanity. There's some cool rewards on there.
For some pens.
For some pens and some index cards. You have no idea, guys. It's patreon.com/crimeandsports, or you can just give us an iTunes review because that's free.
Yes.
And we love them so much, so that would be awesome. Next week, we have some more wild shit for you.
I can't wait.
Get back into the mainstream sports next week and get a little crazy. I got some fun shit for you.
Good.
It's going to be fun. Why don't you hit him with your social media?
I am Jimmie Whisman, at Whisman Sucks on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, and I'm having fun with Snapchat. WHISMAN Sucks. And I'm at Tembler Brewing Company in Bakersfield, California, this Thursday, July 21st. So if you're in that area, come hang out.
If you're in Bakersfield, knock yourselves out, guys. Do that up.
And if
Go
you are in
see Jimmie.
Bakersfield, I'm sorry. It's not
guys.
the best place, but I'm coming, so let's party.
So get some meth up there for Jimmie.
Let's party and forget that we're in Bakersfield.
Yes, definitely. Also, too, I do want to thank a person here. Thank all of our listeners as usual.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch of new listeners that have just been awesome to us. But I want to thank one person who's not a listener, but does our social media for us.
Yeah.
I want to thank Sarah Hunt. She does our social media for us. All of those cool pictures that you see of silver-haired middle-aged white men and all those memes and all that little funny shit, that's all her.
Yeah.
That is not us, guys.
Yeah.
We are not that creative. We do this. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's she does all that stuff for us, and she makes us interesting to follow for you guys. And so we just can't thank her enough. So guys, shout out a thank you to her on the social media for making it fun. And otherwise, guys, we hope you had a good time like we did.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Please, guys.
If you like crime and sports, you can listen early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
A few miles from the glass spires of Midtown Atlanta lies the South River Forest, In 2021 and 2022, the woods became a home to activists from all over the country who gathered to stop the nearby construction of a massive new police training facility, nicknamed Cop City.
At approximately 9 o'clock this morning, as law enforcement was moving through various sectors of the property, an individual, without warning, shot a Georgia State Patrol trooper.
This is We Came to the Forest, a story about resistance.
The abolitionist mission isn't done until every prison is empty and shut down.
Love and fellowship.
It was probably the happiest I've ever been in my life.
And the lengths we'll go to protect the things we hold closest to our hearts. Follow We Came to the Forest on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.